Sammy Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And first of all, can I say that, in principle, we welcome this bill. I think that, first of all, it does represent an opportunity for us to have subsidy control and introduce subsidy regimes which are specific to the United Kingdom, which are not influenced by Brussels and the wider European interests, sometimes subsidy control and regimes which are actually detrimental to our own country. So I think that, first of all, it's an important part of the whole Brexit process that we have this independence. I think, secondly, it is important that we do have a national control regime. For one who speaks from a region of the United Kingdom, of course I want to see that there's an even playing field when it comes to the application of subsidies. Some regions are richer than others, and therefore will have more money to put into subsidies than one area might be. Some areas may have more political influence. And I think, in particular, and this is one of the reasons why I do find some of the objections which have been raised on this side of the House today very odd. A minister, for example, at central government, could introduce subsidies for constituencies which are beneficial to his own party, beneficial to the electoral interests of the governing party, and we do need to have a control regime which enables that kind of decision to be challenged. The only concern I do have in this bill, and maybe the Minister will clarify this later on, it's been raised by a couple of members already. The challenge function seems to be limited to either the Secretary of State or to interested persons. Now, interested persons, as far as I can see, in any definitions which have been given of persons in the bill, would not include ministers from any of the devolved parliaments or devolved assemblies in the United Kingdom. In fact, the only definition we see of a person is in clause, I think it's clause 9. And there it refers to businesses, to enterprises. And I think the Minister does need to clarify this. If he's wanting to argue that this is a robust control regime, then the ability to make referrals must not just rest with the Secretary of State. It must also rest with devolved administrations who do have interests in how subsidies may be used, especially used by a public authority which is a central government department or a central government minister. And I don't. But others may want this so they can make mischief. I think if the Minister is serious about saying that we want to have a UK-wide effective control regime, then it must be clear that that challenge function is available to all of the interested parties across the UK. I want to come specifically to the Northern Ireland issue, because, of course, the control of subsidies in Northern Ireland is not going to be totally under either the Competition Commission or the tribunals. We will operate a dual regime. Under the withdrawal agreement and the Northern Ireland Protocol, it is quite clear that, as far as state aid is concerned and the control of state aid is concerned, the provisions of union law listed in Annex 5, and there's a whole list of EU rules there, shall apply to the United Kingdom, including with regard to measures supporting the production of trade in agricultural products and in agricultural products in respect of measures which affect that trade between Northern Ireland and the Union, which is subject to this protocol. Now, the Minister has said today, in answer to the opposition spokesperson, and again in answer, I think, to the Scottish National representative who spoke, that it is clear that, as far as the government is concerned, Northern Ireland is covered by this bill. Well, the only way in which Northern Ireland can be within the provisions, totally within the provisions of this bill, is by the removal of Article 10. Now, I know it's a lengthy bill, but I've read through it. I don't find any reference to Article 10 being altered, removed, changed in this bill. So therefore, unless, and maybe the Minister can point this out to us later on, I will welcome it, by the way. In fact, I'll be overjoyed, and people in Northern Ireland will be overjoyed, if there is provision in this bill hidden somewhere in words which I don't understand, haven't spotted, or whatever. If it is there, please, Minister, point it out, and there will be great rejoicing in Northern Ireland as a result of that. Yes, I'll give way.
I'm concerned that actually, even if it was in this bill, there wouldn't be the competence of this place to unilaterally change that without having a discussion with the European Union about it.
Well, and you know, the member for North Aberdeen did raise this, and raised it in a way, and I wasn't too sure whether she was supportive of Article 10 being withdrawn, or whether she was appalled at the prospect of Article 10 being withdrawn because the EU opposed it. The one thing I did notice, however, was she was appalled that there should be any interference in the role of the government in Scotland to be able to make subsidy decisions. So if that is the case, then of course she should be equally appalled, and she should welcome any unilateral decision by the government here at Westminster to give the same freedom to policy makers in Northern Ireland. And I'll give way again, yeah.
Honestly, I don't have a view on whether it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just utterly confused because I don't think the government has the power to do this, and I want to know actually what they mean so that I can work out if I do oppose it or if I don't oppose it, because I don't know what they're saying.
Well, the government does have the power to do it, of course, under Article 16, where it is deemed that the provisions within the withdrawal agreement are damaging economically to Northern Ireland. And I can't think of anything more damaging to Northern Ireland, I'm going to show in a moment or two, than a subsidy regime which can apply in the rest of the United Kingdom, but which can be stopped applying in Northern Ireland. And let me just give some examples of how the conflict between the dual system could operate. Under the principles which we have outlined in Schedule 1, one of the principles is that subsidies should be proportionate. There is no fixed percentage, simply that they be proportionate. Under the EU state aid regime, subsidies can't be more than 50%. So there's a case where, for example, a subsidy could be made available to a firm in Scotland, and that firm could equally be looking at Northern Ireland. Scotland could have the advantage of saying, this is so important to us, and it fits in with our objectives, that we're giving a subsidy which is maybe equal to 70%. And Northern Ireland would, and that may even be accepted under the control regime which there is in the rest of the United Kingdom. But Northern Ireland would be excluded from seeking to attract that firm on the basis that the EU state aid rules say that you can't go over 50%. So there's one way in which the dual system is going to disadvantage. Another one is that the EU refused to allow state aid to be given where it's simply a case of expansion. But under the principles which are outlined here in Schedule 1, that a subsidy of that nature could be given in the rest of the United Kingdom. So you could find that a subsidy complies with the control regime in GB, but it doesn't comply with EU state aid rules in Northern Ireland, so placing Northern Ireland at disadvantage. EU state aid rules, and the Minister said it. One of the reasons for bringing forward their own control system is that it can be more flexible and quicker. In fact, I think he said 30 days a decision can be made. Under EU state aid rules, there has to be a period, a standstill period, which can last up to a year. the Minister has said this in the House today. So again, when it comes to attracting businesses using subsidies in Northern Ireland, even if we could match the subsidy which is available in England, Scotland or Wales or wherever somebody else is trying to attract that firm, because of the slowness of the process imposed by the fact that we're not only subject to the control regime in the rest of the United Kingdom, but also subject to EU state aid rules, we could find ourselves in a position where a firm simply says, well, we can get a decision quicker in England, Scotland or Wales. That's where we're going. Northern Ireland's disadvantage. So, and Minister, that's one of the reasons why no fiddling about with regulations is going to make a difference here. If Northern Ireland still remains firmly under Article 10 of the withdrawal agreement, and state aid rules apply there, and the dual system has to apply in Northern Ireland, then this is not a case of, as someone has said so far, that you try to control the subsidy race. Northern Ireland can't even enter the race. We will be spectators in the race, stopped from entering by the provisions of Article 10 and the requirement for Northern Ireland to remain under the state aid rules. But lest people think that this is just an issue for Northern Ireland, because you may say, well, tough. You know, that was what happened with Brexit. Tough. And this is the other elephant in the room, and one which has not been addressed in this bill. Those state aid rules apply to trade between Northern Ireland and the Union. But any subsidies which give a firm which operates through Northern Ireland, even though it's based in England, Scotland or Wales, but trades through Northern Ireland into the EU, or might even trade into the EU through Northern Ireland, will also be caught up in this. And that the issue of the reach of the state aid rules has not been addressed in this. And this is not just an academic argument, because already we have, and it's not even just for subsidies which may be given to firms in England, Scotland or Wales. This can also affect international trade deals, which the government does with the rest of the world. Because if you take the example where British Sugar have challenged the deal which the Secretary of State did, which allows 250,000 tonnes of sugar cane into the United Kingdom tariff-free. It's been challenged by British Sugar. And it's been challenged by British Sugar on the basis that it would represent unfair competition in the European market, because British Sugar sells in the European market. It uses sugar beet. The tariff-free sugar cane would give Tate and Lyle an advantage, and it's been challenged in the courts, and Article 10 has been cited. So if we're going to look at a subsidy control regime and ensure that it does not disadvantage one part of the United Kingdom, and it does not also catch some of the subsidies which may be made available to firms which are located in other parts of the United Kingdom rather than Northern Ireland, then this Article 10 issue is all important, and that's why I think it is important that the Minister gives some clarification on that. Just on a couple of other specific issues. I've spoken to officials in the Department of the Economy in Northern Ireland. One of the things they have said, and it's quite clear why, of course, this is a situation. They said, look, we're finding it very difficult to get information as to how this is going to work, because so much of this bill depends upon new regulations being made. The general headlines are there, but regulations are going to be made. I mean, for example, what is an interested party? Is the Minister going to make regulations which will widen the scope of that? What about the guidance for the subsidy in the person of interest? What about the issue of subsidies of particular interest. We don't know which subsidies are likely to be subsidies of particular interest. That will be made by regulation as well. And it's peppered throughout the bill is the indication that this will be clarified by regulation by the Minister. But of course, that's important when it comes to the operation of the subsidy control. And we're kind of dealing with this bill, and we're blind to some of the issues which need to be addressed there. I think the second issue is the issue of the time which there is to be allowed for appeal and to have the challenge 30 days. I don't want to have the same kind of long drawn-out process that the EU does, but I think that 30 days is particularly short. 30 days from the time in which the subsidy is registered or on the database, and I just wonder why that period of time has been selected, especially since to get information together for the challenge may be that much more difficult. And lastly, of course, the powers of the tribunal. The tribunal, of course, has got significant powers, but it's how they'll be used at the end of the day, which is important. So, I think that when it comes to the committee stage, it is important that many of these issues are addressed. Minister, I've got to say, from a Northern Ireland perspective, I hope that the promise which has been made from the dispatch box is correct. If it is, I'd love to see where it is being delivered in this bill. If not, then I would say that this bill does not deal with some of the factors which should cause the greatest distortion of trade when it comes to the application of subsidies, namely a dual regime in Northern Ireland, a regime which allows the European Court of Justice to make those decisions, and the promise which was made at the very start by the Minister in his opening speech that this bill represents then the freedoms which we have from Brexit is not quite true, because of course this bill would still leave a significant foothold in the United Kingdom for Brussels and for the European Court of Justice in making the final decisions about subsidies which apply in Northern Ireland and subsidies which are given to firms in England, Scotland or Wales, but who may fall under the EU state aid regime because through their trading in Northern Ireland they impact on the European market.